Docker container versus image. So you might have, if you're watching this, it's probably because you were wondering what the difference is between a Docker container and a Docker image. Well, let's take a look. An image is like, we'll show you how these work, but an image is basically like a blueprint, and you create a container from the image. So the containers are running instances. They're kind of like lightweight VMs, or they're actually meant to be treated like processes. But those are the actual instances, and the image is just like the blueprint that you create those instances from. So you create containers from images. So the image is like your golden copy or whatever. So you might have like one image that has Ubuntu and Nginx. It's like an Ubuntu-based image with Nginx running on it. And you use that image to create a bunch of containers all running Nginx and create a cluster with them. So if you say Docker images, it'll show you all the images installed on your Docker server. So, for example, right here we have Nginx and Ubuntu. We're going to use Ubuntu as a good example. These were all pulled down from Docker Hub. You can also build images using a Docker file, and you can import them from a tarball also. You can also save a running container if you have a container that you've made some changes to and you want to use. All you have to do is you can basically just save the state of that container into an image and create a whole bunch, and use that as a blueprint to create a whole bunch more containers. So we're going to use this Ubuntu image to create a container. But before we do that, let's take a look at what containers we have running on our system right now. So you say Docker PS, and you see there's nothing there. Now that's just the running containers. There are no running containers. If you say Docker PS-A, that shows all containers running or stopped, which is still nothing in this case. So we're going to say Docker. We're going to say Docker run -tid -name smelly hippo Ubuntu. Now, smelly hippo is going to be the name of our container, and Ubuntu is the name of the image that we're going to use. This is the image that we saw over here. So this image is just an image that runs Ubuntu. That's all it does. It doesn't have anything else installed on it. It doesn't have a web server or anything else. So let's give that a shot. And the TID just that's basically so we can interact with it. The D puts it in the background, and the TI gives you an interactive TTY. Anyways, let's run this, and boom, it created a container for us. So let's check just to see. There we go. Do run a Docker PS-A. We didn't really need the -A, but I always just do it anyways. But here we go. We have a container. It's up and running. Now you'll notice the container name is Smelly Hippo, and you'll notice the image used to create this container is called Ubuntu. So you'll notice the command it's running is bin bash. Let's try to create another one. So you can run. Let's create another one called, instead of Smelly Hippo, just call it Funny Frog. Funny Frog. And Docker PS, there we go. Now notice we have two containers running, one named Funny Frog, one named Smelly Hippo, both of them using the same image. So we use that same image or golden copy of an Ubuntu-based image, and we use that same image to create two containers. Now we could create hundreds of these or thousands of these, and we could create these across multiple different servers, and we could load balance them, create clusters, and do all kinds of nice stuff. Basically, the idea with an image is you package up your application and all this stuff you expect to have running, and you can ship it off, and someone else can use it to create a container and run a service that's identical to what you created. So let's create another one, but this time we're going to run, instead of Ubuntu, let's change let's take away the name. Let's leave the name in there for now. Let's call it Test1 just to be different. And you know what? Let's call it Web1, and we'll use the Nginx image, Nginx, and there we go. Let's do a Docker PS, and you'll notice we have a new image. See, these other ones have been running for about a minute. This one's only 10 seconds old, and you'll notice the command, instead of bash, this is running Nginx. So it's running an Nginx daemon. That's what Nginx is, a web server similar to Apache. And so this one, instead of just running Ubuntu, it's an Nginx server. So the image we're using is Nginx instead of Ubuntu, and you'll notice it actually has a port that it basically has a service. This is a port that the service is running on, whereas Ubuntu didn't have any services running, and it's called Web 1. So let's run another one called Web 2, just so we can see a bunch of them in there. There we go. Notice it's really fast to create a container from an image. And so now we have 2 Nginx containers here, Web 1 and Web 2, and we have 2 Ubuntu containers, Funny Frog and Smelly Hippo. So let's say, what if you were to remove the name, don't specify a name. Now, run this, it still works. Now let's see what we have. Docker PS, and you'll notice we have another Nginx, another container based on an Nginx image, but instead of being called, so it's also so Web 1 and 2 are just names that I picked out for the containers. Notice this one has a strange name, Nostalgic Kirch. So basically, if you don't specify a name, Docker just assigns a random name, which is fine, but which is just interesting to note. These names that I gave down here are goofy names that I made up, but you'll get these goofy names assigned by default if you I mean, they're a little bit different, but you'll still get goofy names assigned by default if you don't specify a name. You generally would probably want to specify a name. You generally use some type of automation to create your containers, anyways, give them meaningful names. Otherwise, you're going to get goofy names like this by default. And if you're like me, you might just create something with a goofy name like this on purpose. But there you go. This is our example about Docker containers versus Docker images. So you should have a pretty good idea what the difference is. I'm not delving into the depths of like how layers work and all of that stuff. That's probably beyond the scope of this video. But we have a bunch of other Docker content on our website and on this YouTube channel. So yeah, definitely like and subscribe to our channel, like this video if you want, or leave a comment and leave a comment, good or bad, doesn't matter. We just want to see what people think. We do care about your opinion, and if you want to look at our articles based on Docker and other technical subjects, just check for the link in the description of this video. That should lead you right to our website. And as always, thanks for watching.